today is a great day to be alive because it is the first Market Monday of the 2025 fantasy football season. For anyone new to Market Monday, this is a once per week show where I look at the biggest risers and fallers in best ball ADP from the previous 7 days and discuss who is moving, why they're moving, and how I want to handle these players at their new prices. The idea is simple: get you up to speed very quickly on what's actually happening out there in drafts and how to adjust. Biggest best ball risers from the last 7 days, going to hit 3 of them. First up is George Pickens. George Pickens up 20 spots from 76 overall to 50th overall on Underdog. Obviously, this stems from the trade that went down last week. Steelers sending Pickens to the Cowboys for a round 3 pick. Just an immediate upgrade going from the Steelers, who have Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, Skylar Thompson in their QB room right now, and now Pickens goes to Dak Prescott. And perhaps just as importantly to me, Pickens is getting away from Arthur Smith, who has repeatedly shown an unwillingness to scheme the ball to his best players, and he's annually among the most run-heavy coordinators in the league. Steelers were 26th in pass rate over expectation last year. So obviously, going to Dallas is an upgrade for Pickens. The question is how much? I expect Dallas to be really throw-heavy this season and probably not that good in general, leading to some of the garbage time stuff, some of the shootout stuff that Dak has in the past put up big numbers in those kind of environments. Remember, Dak Prescott was fantasy's number 3 quarterback in 2023, only behind Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. So this year's team, this year's Cowboys, are they going to be able to run the ball effectively with some mix of Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Jaden Blue? I think that's a big question mark. And again, on defense, I mean, Dallas was 28th in yards per play allowed last year. I think they'll be better this year, but not a ton. So anyway, that's all a long way of saying the environment for Pickens is far better in Dallas. And the fit is really good. CeeDee Lamb on out of the slot on drag routes and crossers. Pickens operating deeper down the field. Right now, in terms of volume, we have Pickens projected for 101 targets and CeeDee Lamb for 144. And we're at 52 overall on the rank for Pickens, a little bit ahead of ADP here. So yeah, I prefer Pickens to Judy, Waddle, Jacoby, those guys going around there. And in part, the reason that I prefer Pickens to those guys is I really like the stack. I really like Dak in the wake of this trade and the setup. So getting Dak stacks with Lamb, who I like, with Pickens, who I like slightly more than ADP right now, with Ferguson, who I like a lot more than ADP right now, that Dallas stack is one that I'm hitting for sure. Second riser I want to hit is DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf up 7 spots from 54th to 47th overall. So this is the other side of the trade, and it's a bit tougher for me. DK Metcalf is now the unquestioned alpha for the Steelers and Arthur Smith. They gave him a $132 million contract. They trade away Pickens. DK Metcalf's competition for targets is like laughable. Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, Sir Robert of the Trees, Robert Woods, Pat Freiermuth. Now that said, the quarterback situation is likely going to be one of Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins as the starter. I mean, just 2 stone cold witherists. And then like Mason Rudolph as the backup. And as I noted, Arthur Smith at offensive coordinator. So from just a raw volume projection standpoint, it's hard not to get there on Metcalf. We have him for 112 targets, which is a lot for a run-heavy team. You know, that's more targets than we have for Mike Evans, for example. But not all targets are created equal. I would easily rather have Mike Evans, Terry McLaurin, Ted McMillan, Zay Flowers, Travis Hunter. I would take all of them over DK Metcalf. And also, the quarterback situation is really risky to stack right now. Offensive coordinator situation is brutal. Have some questions about Metcalf as a player. I know Silva has raised that before about how complete of a wide receiver really is DK Metcalf. So I am not targeting him. I really try to get in on some of those other wide receivers that I talked about before Metcalf. Third riser is rookie Jaguars running back Bashal Tutin, up 5 spots from 122 to 117 overall. We've already, it's May 12th. And we've already talked about Tutin a bunch on the podcast, both before the draft and then after. This is the kind of player, though, who would would be going in, I don't know, the 150s or the 160s in May a couple years ago in best ball. But as people get sharper, we're now up to 117 overall. So we are getting absolutely no kind of bargain whatsoever on base Schultz-Tutin right now. That said, I'm pretty excited about him just in a vacuum. James Gladstone, new Jaguars GM, when he was interviewing for the job, he pinpointed Tutin as the kind of player he'd be targeting. Travis Etienne's in the final year of his contract. Reports out there, the NFL thinks the Jags are low on Etienne. Tank Bigsby, I think, is a fine early down back. But Tutin is the archetype of the player I like to take swings at running back. I just wish he wasn't so expensive. Unless Etienne is traded or completely phased out, Tutin's volume is going to be tough to project at 117 overall. So for now, I'm not getting a ton of Tutin on Underdog. He is a bit cheaper on DraftKings, where we're actually 9 spots ahead of ADP on Tutin. But one thing that I'd note, I mean, once season comes around, I'd bet we can get Tutin for like free. And that's the kind of late round flyer that I'm into there in season long, where you draft Tutin. If ETN plays well or Bigsby plays well at the beginning of the season and Tutin is outside the mix, you can just drop him. All right, let's get to this week's fallers. Going to hit 3 of them. First one is Tyler Warren. Shout out Penn State. Tyler Warren continues his free fall since the draft, down 5 spots from 119 to 124. Landing spot is bad. You know, we know this. Everyone knows this. You can check out the landing spot ranking show we did last week for more. But there's going to be a point where we're double counting or we're overemphasizing this bad landing spot in Indy. This was the player the Colts identified as the one they prayed would fall to them at 14 overall. They were so thrilled that he did. He's going to be a massive part of their plan. So, yes, they're going to be run heavy with Anthony Richardson or Danny Dimes and Jonathan Taylor. Yes, the quarterback play is going to be spotty/bad. But at 124 overall, Tyler Warren is going around Travis Etienne, Kyle Williams, Jack Besh, Christian Kirk, who I'm going to get to in a second here. It's not expensive. And you guys know I'm no tape bro. I should say it's not expensive for a guy who went 14th overall. You know, Bashal Tootin was a 4th round pick. Tyler Warren went 14th overall. So, you know, you guys know I'm no tape bro, but it's hard to describe how absurd Tyler Warren was at Penn State last year. Like literally unstoppable most weeks. So at some point, I'm willing to just bet on talent, bet on some unknown that comes with all these first round and early round rookies, and be contrarian. You know, everybody's out on Tyler Warren right now. He's getting cheaper. It's an interesting spot to take him. I like Warren as part of 3 tight end rooms that need some volatility, but I would not take him right now over the Evan Ingram, Mark Andrews, David Njoku, Colston Loveland tier. Second faller is Christian Kirk, down 9 spots from 118 to 127 overall. Texans wide receiver is really an interesting spot. You know, I guess first have to start with the CJ Stroud situation. My gut right now is to bet on bounce back for Stroud. Bobby Slowick was incompetent, allowing free rushers. He's gone. The offensive line this year might be less talented, and I'm excited to talk to Brandon Thorne about this. Offensive line might be less talented, but there was something going on last year where it was like broken internally in the offensive line room, just on like a chemistry level. So if we want to bet on a bounce back for Stroud, well, obviously Nico Collins is a turbo smash, but he's going roughly where he should, 11th overall. We also have Jaden Higgins expected to start opposite Nico. He's going 98th overall on Underdog. That's pretty expensive for a round 2 rookie. And then there's Kirk, who signed with the Texans 4 years, $72 million, $37 million guaranteed in free agency. He'll be 29 in November. Only played 8 games last year due to that broken collarbone that required surgery. My bet right now is I expect Kirk to play ahead of Jalen Noel in the slot as long as Kirk is healthy. Texans' new offensive coordinator is Nick Caley. He's a Sean McVay disciple. Sean McVay, of course, ran 11 personnel with the same 3 wide receivers for roughly every play. So if that's the case, and Kirk has the slot job, and he's playing every single snap, and we want to bet on Christian Kirk, and we want to bet on CJ Stroud, then I'm a buyer at 127 overall. on Christian Kirk. Third and final guy to talk about is Najee Harris. Najee Harris down 5 spots to 110 overall. More draft fallout here. We had Amarian Hampton go 22 overall, whereas Najee Harris's free agency deal was 1 year, $5 million. We know what the coach is like about Najee. He's reliable. He doesn't fumble much. He plays all the games. He can play on pass downs. But we also know the problems. He doesn't create very many explosive runs. He's not really a difference maker. And so Najee is just a tough pick for me in best ball, where all the money is in the final 3 weeks. By that time, I expect Hampton to really have secured the workhorse role. And even if Hampton doesn't, well, what does Najee give you on limited volume, on 9 to 12 touches per game anyways? Like, the whole allure of his game was volume. So yeah, Najee is getting very cheap, and I'm not opposed to taking him as part of some zero RB teams, but I would prefer Jaylen Warren. I would prefer the tight ends that go in that range. And I also prefer like Shaheed and Rashad Bateman types in that range as well over Najee. All right. Thanks to everyone for listening to the first Market Monday of the fantasy football season. This show will go up weekly from now until September. So if you have not subscribed to the Established to Run podcast on audio or YouTube, be sure you are by searching for it anywhere podcasts / the YouTubes are found. Also, be sure you're following me on Twitter for a ton more player takes at Adam Levitan, all one word. We will be back later this week with Silva and Ryan Reynolds for our first awards show of the season. We'll be looking at the betting markets for Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, MVP, Coach of the Year, etc. For Producer Ryan, Producer Luke, for the data side team helping me to track these ADP moves, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.